friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So first of all, I was watching Jenna Marbles' e-girl video while I was doing my makeup today, and I decided to give myself a rash. I'm not obsessed with how this looks, but I also feel like I didn't want to redo it. So this is just our look for the day. Today's video is going to be a Yass pass. We haven't actually done a Yass or pass in a couple weeks. I've actually kind of been on a YouTube hiatus. I know I posted a couple times last week, but this week is my first week back fully just into filming, into it. And I love making Yass or pass videos. I think they're so much fun. But I was trying to find like pictures and stuff on Trend Mood that I could talk about. And I realized makeup brands are kind of slowing down. I realized normally I have like hundreds of things to choose from of what I want to talk about, but today when I was going to try to find stuff, there wasn't as much. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just because normally the beginning of the year is a slower time because everybody's kind of fatigued from Christmas. So it makes sense for makeup brands not to put out as much stuff. And there is still like a decent amount of stuff, but it was just less than normal, which I found kind of interesting. Let's get started into this. I'm actually really excited. The candle of the day today is hot cocoa and cream. This smells like literal chocolate. So I hope you guys like that. I haven't curled my hair in so long. I'm gonna be flipping it around the whole video. I apologize. Okay, so the first thing is the Amrezy palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I don't hate this, and it does kind of look like those shimmer shades are going to be very similar to the shimmer shades in the Sultry palette, which I love those shimmer shades. You guys know if you've been watching my channel that the Sultry shade shimmers, that is a tongue twister, are some of my favorite shimmer shadows. I think they're so beautiful. One of my favorite formulas from Anastasia. And just at first glance, these shimmers definitely look like they're going to be like that, especially the shades Barb and Anastasia. Those look stunning. I do think this is pretty. I'll give it that it's a little bit basic because it does have kind of those neutrals. It's a basic palette. Like you probably do have these colors. Something interesting that somebody noted was this does kind of look like the Too Faced Palm Springs palette, which it does kind of look like that. I also feel like they're kind of heavily relying on that pop of blue effect because without that bright blue and that bright pink, this is kind of a boring palette. I think it's pretty, but I'm not like obsessed. I don't know if I'll buy this, honestly, because some of these shimmer shades do look kind of similar to Sultry and Soft Glam, which I already have those shimmer shades in the Anastasia formula. And the only reason I would be buying it would be for that quad at the end that has like the really bright pink, the two light pinks, and the white. And even that shade Liddy looks really pretty, and so does Cupcake. So I'd be buying it for those pink shimmers. And if I'm being honest with myself, I have quite a few pink shimmers. I have a lot of pink shimmers. Pink shimmers are like my favorite thing to buy. I don't know if you can tell by my eye look today, but I really like pink. Anastasia did announce that this will be her last launch until the holiday season because I think she does hear the consumers with their fatigue of Anastasia. So she said this will be the last palette from the Anastasia line coming out until Christmas, but she did say there are going to be 2 more Norvina palettes coming out, another Pro palette and another mini palette. So at least she's kind of giving a sneak peek of what's to come for the brand. She's trying not to overwhelm as much this year with the amount of collabs and palettes that were put out. So if this is the only palette from Anastasia we're getting for a whole year, kind of wish it had been maybe a cooler palette. I also wasn't really ever into YouTube when Amrezy was really popular, so I don't know a lot about Amrezy, so this isn't a collab that I'm like, oh, I love her, I want to support her. Overall, I mean, it's cute. I like it. I obviously like the packaging. Yeah, obviously I enjoy that. Morphe. This looks like a BH Cosmetics palette. I'm pretty sure BH Cosmetics has this palette. They did kind of a like muted rainbow tones with also some cool tones. The whole like bottom quadrant is like a cool tone mix. I don't know. I think Morphe is struggling. And I think the reason for that is because they only do these like really big palettes, right? So that's kind of their brand now, is these big, massive palettes, and that's all they've been putting out. And there's only so many colors in the rainbow that you can make for a palette. So at this point, everything they come out with, because they're coming out with these big, massive palettes so consistently, everything feels like something they've already put out. This feels repetitive. Even though technically it's a different color story, it does feel repetitive. I am glad that they've stopped putting in so many browns into their palettes. Like, I'm glad that this seems to just be a colorful palette. It looks like a muted version of what they put out for Christmas, which looked like a just slightly different version from the James Charles palette. So it's kind of like they're just sort of doing different variations of things they've already done, which makes me just not interested. I also think their eyeshadow palette formula, it's just, to be perfectly honest, I think it's great for people who are beginners because it's a very easy to work with formula. It's not hyper pigmented. You don't have to worry about putting on too much pigmentation and having to blend it out. Like, it's an easy formula to work with, and you get a ton of colors for a very affordable price point. So I do think if you're a beginner, Morphe shadows would probably be great for you. I know I loved my Morphe palettes when I was first starting in makeup because it gave me a ton of options to play with, and they weren't too pigmented. They were easy to use. Past that level, it's like you just can't. You can't. Even once you try like Colourpop shadows or Milani shadows, which are just 10 times better and it's a similar price point, it's so hard to go back to Morphe, I feel. And I also think there is a consistency issue because some of their shades are really good and really nice. Some of them are great. Some of their shimmers are fantastic, and some of their mattes blend really beautifully and are great. And then others are crap. They're utter crap. And it's in the same palette, and you're just like left feeling like every shadow performs very differently. So I do think this is a no from me. So Kristin Dominique's put out her Latte 2 palette. I have the Berries and Cream palette from Kristin Dominique, and I really, really like it. The formula is beautiful. I actually haven't played with it in a while, but I was watching an old video of mine and I saw that I used it in a look, and the look turned out so pretty, and I was like, why don't I use that palette more? Because it's beautiful. I think it's because it's cool tones, and I'm not a big cool tone person. Formula is phenomenal. And even when I had the Lemonade palette, granted that palette had some consistency issues where some palettes, the glitters weren't performing, and she did recall them and send everybody a new palette, but when I got it, it wasn't good still. I loved the mattes in that palette, but I hated the shimmers and I returned it. And I've seen swatches of like the first original Latte palette that she came out with. Now she has the Latte 2. I will say I commend her for having unique color stories. I think her color stories are genuinely unique, interesting. I think they're really good. I like the fact that she is consistently putting out good products with no drama, because I think sometimes it feels like influencer brands thrive on drama and controversy to drum up hype for a release. But I think her quality of product kind of speaks for itself, which I think is really good. I do think this palette's a little weird, and more because I just don't cohesively understand how this like baby blue would tie in with all of these other warm toned browns. So this kind of cool toned brights section would work with these browns. However, again, I think at least it's an interesting and different color story. I just am not sure that I would know what to do with this. Like, just being totally honest, I don't know if I would be able to put together a cohesive color story with this. I don't know if I would know what to do with this. I think maybe had she made these colors a touch lighter and a touch more pastel, because I'm looking at the names and the yellow is called Blonde Roast. So if she'd then made that like an actual coffee color, what the Blonde Roast at like Starbucks looks like. Same thing with like Strawberry Milk. Had it just been kind of lighter and a little bit more, not as heavily pink and yellow, and this matcha color, if it had been a little bit more green, I think I could have seen how this color story would have worked together. But and maybe in person it looks a little bit more like that, because in this picture, those just look like three very bright out of place shades, and then you have your basics quad. So I would be interested to see the looks that influencers come up with when playing with this palette, because I'm interested to see how the tones and shades sort of go together. And I can attest that the formula is fantastic, but I don't think this is something that I need. Okay, so this I'm very interested in. So Samantha Ravndal has been talking about this foundation for so long, right? And she said it was like her secret foundation she's been using for like over a year, and everybody's been like, what is this foundation? Let us know. She finally dropped it. It is the Bite foundation. Bite Beauty came out with a whole new line of foundations. I believe they have a pressed powder. They have a few other products that they came out with, primers, but the big thing is the foundation. I'm so interested. I really want to try it. I think I want to get a sample of this before I go ahead and buy it, because I think I was talking about this with my friend the other day. I was like, I think I forget that samples exist. I think I forget that those are a thing that I can do that. Like, I can go get a sample before I commit to spending $40 on a foundation, and I'm not sure if it's going to work for me or not. So I think I am going to go and get a sample of this first and try it out and see if I actually do like it as much as I think I will. I think I'm going to. They are kind of trying to sell it as like you need the primer and the foundation together for the best outcome. I don't necessarily think that's true. The primer that's gonna work best for you is the one that works best for your skin type. Because everybody's skin types are so incredibly different, I think it would be hard to say that one primer works best with one foundation. I also think if you've already found a primer that works really well for you, there's no need to just like constantly be trying out new ones. I kind of have my tried and true primers at this point. While I still will test out new ones and see, you know, what's happening. Like I have my go-tos that I know work really well for me. So I don't think I'd be interested in the primer. Same thing with the pressed powder. I just think maybe I'm a little biased because I don't like spending money on things that go away so quickly, but I go through pressed powder so quickly, and spending that much money on a pressed powder when things like the J-Cat Aquassurance like little powder exist, and Rimmel Stay Matte, which is like one of my tried and true favorites. I can't justify spending this much money on a powder, but I am very interested in the foundation, and I'm interested to see what happens with it. I think I've seen a lot of people really hyped about this foundation, so we'll see what happens. I'm interested. Okay, so Tati Beauty came out with a new product, and it is called the Blendiful, and it is 2 like puffs, like little puffs. I don't know, guys. Okay, so I talked about this briefly on my live stream because you guys brought it up. I just feel as though she hyped up this release as being something like that's gonna change the makeup game and revolutionize the makeup world. And while I've seen a couple videos where people use this and their foundation looked fine and like good, I also know that I could use my like beauty blender or my Real Techniques. I don't even use beauty blenders. My Real Techniques sponge or my Beauty Bakery sponge. Like I could use those and look great. I think it's a little strange to be trying to launch something different to change it up for makeup sponges, only because it feels as though she's just trying to do something that's like, this is different from what other brands are doing because they're putting out a sponge, but I'm putting out this puff. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if maybe I'm like off base with that. It does feel a little weird. I will say like the packaging looks very nice. It's the puffs do look well made, but this just doesn't interest me at all. I think for a new brand to come out with something that's so kind of not makeup, I just wanted to release makeup. I feel like she did the palette, and I actually really like the palette. It wasn't my favorite at first. The more and more I played with it and worked with it, I actually really like it. It's a really great palette, and I think I just want to see her put out some freaking makeup. She does like the vitamins, she does, you know, all these other things, she does this. I want to see her put out color cosmetics and have her color cosmetics brand be about makeup, not about application thingies, you know? Also, I was talking on the live and I was like, why is she not making like skincare? Why is she not making like all of these other things? It just feels a little boring, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm sure this is a great product and I'm sure it's practical and I'm sure people are gonna like it, but it feels like a bit of a boring release, if I'm being perfectly honest. Next, we have the Colourpop Mint Condition collection. This is the Mint to Be palette. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of cute. I really like the 9-pan palette formula. I do think they're coming out with it way too quickly. That's always my critique of Colourpop, but I do think this is like a cute palette. The greens are cute. It does look relatively different to the other green palette they came out with, which was the Just My Luck palette. It does seem to have sort of different undertones, and I mean, it's cute. I'm not gonna buy this, mostly because I won't use it. I don't really like greens. I'm not a green person, but again, I think if you like these more sort of like grungy cool tones, or if you were interested in that Morphe palette that had the greens, but you didn't want to support Morphe, this has a similar vibe to it where it's kind of those grungier teals and greens and silvers. I think it's a good price point for people. I just, again, wish Colourpop would chill. Take a chill pill, relax. It's all gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. But I do think this is like a cool little palette. Okay, this is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Instant Eye Palette. Okay, this is pretty. It's really pretty. I would use this a ton. This is like, again, right up my alley with the pinks and the neutrals and the purples. Like, this is right up my alley. Like, I would use this. I know if I bought this, it's something that I would definitely get use out of. I appreciate the fact that it's split up into little trios of shadows. So you could almost, it's kind of set up pretty perfectly where you could just like throw this shade in the crease, put this shade in your inner corner, put this shade on your lid, and now you're good to go. So it's set up in a way that's really easy. However, I have just not been entirely impressed with Charlotte Tilbury, the things that I have tried from her. Her packaging is stunning and very luxe and beautiful, but I've just not been impressed with the products on the inside. At the end of the day, I have the Modern Renaissance palette, which is very similar to this, especially with that pink quad over there that really kind of draws your attention, I think. I have colors that are similar to this. I'm kind of talking myself out of this right now, I'm not gonna lie. buy because it's expensive too. And I think for me, because I have so many palettes that are kind of similar tones to this, buying something this expensive when realistically I probably wouldn't get my money's worth out of it because I have other palettes like this to reach for, not something I really want to do. And I also have never tried their eyeshadow palette formula, so I don't know how good it is. And because I've been let down by other things from her brand, I'm a little bit hesitant. I do think though, if you are like maybe a beginner to makeup, or you're somebody that just likes to open your makeup and know exactly what you're going to use and know exactly what you're going to do with your eyes and do the same thing every day or do a variation of the same thing every day, this would be a great palette for you because it really is beautiful. And the packaging is stunning. Everything about it is really pretty. I also, a side note though, I do take slight issue with her constant use of the one famous shade she had, which was Pillow Talk. It was like her famous lipstick shade. It kind of blew up. Everybody loved it. I do think does start to become lazy when brands constantly use the one thing that they had go really well for them as a like collection. Just does feel a little bit lazy. Kind of feels like they can't come up with a new idea that's going to be just as good, so they just keep relying on this old idea. I feel the same way about Urban Decay and the Naked palettes, or Kat Von D and Lolita. So that's just a side note as well. I do feel it's a little bit lazy for brands because it makes it feel like they can't come up with a better idea, so they don't, you know? Okay, so this is the Clarity Cosmetics Blue Royal palette. Okay, this is really pretty. I'm not gonna lie. I want this. I really want this. The shimmer shades look beautiful. Like the swatches look so stunning, and the mattes look gorgeous. Seems like it would be very easy to create a couple of different blue style looks with this. I don't think this would be the most versatile palette, but because it is a 6-pan, that's kind of to be expected. You can only be so versatile with 6 colors, but I think this is stunning. I want this, but I know in my heart that I don't wear enough blue to justify buying this. And I already have the Colourpop Blue Moon palette, which while it doesn't look like this, oh man, I don't know. I'm actually on the fence about this. I might end up getting this like down the line because this is so beautiful. I mean, the swatches are just stunning. I think the packaging they did a really good job on. That one foiled shade that has like the gold and silver in it to create like a cool kind of look is so pretty. It gives it like a light blue silvery look. I think this is a cool looking palette. I don't know how much use I would get out of it. It would be what would hold me back from getting it, but I think this is beautiful. Okay, next we have the Glamlight Cake palette. So I'm glad Glamlight is doing like cute food. I don't like food packaging that's not cute. Maybe that's like stupid, but like I don't like the idea of a pizza palette. I just don't. I don't like the idea of a taco palette. Those aren't cute to me. Like those aren't cute foods that I would want to look at every day when I opened my eyeshadow palette because it's like cutesy and adorable. Like this is at least like cute. Like they had the milkshake palette and it was like cute. Take a shot every time I say cute. But they are back to kind of doing this sort of cutesy foodie thing, which I appreciate. I'm glad they did that. However, I'm not interested at all. This definitely kind of just looks like mishmash of colors and doesn't really inspire like cake. Like I don't look at this palette and I'm like, oh, like cake, you know what I mean? Like it more looks like they based it off of pie because they have like key lime, blueberry, strawberry, like peach, like those are pie flavors. So I'm not entirely sure that they even fully committed to the theme on this one, which normally it feels like they do commit to a theme. I will also say that Glamlight as a brand, I do find a little, I think I side-eye a little bit because I had an issue with their PR system and how they do PR and how they like get influencers. They send like this little message to influencers they're interested in being like, hey, if you buy our products at 30% off, and then if you promote it and you can get enough sales, then we'll consider putting you on PR for a month. And then if you sell that PR, then we'll put you on our permanent PR list. They either send PR or they don't. So the way that they do PR, I do find to be a little bit sketchy, kind of weird. And this palette just doesn't really inspire me. However, I do really like their milkshake palette. I think the shimmers in it are really pretty. And I enjoyed that palette, but I bought it for half off. And I believe I said in my review video that I'm glad I bought it for half off because I feel like I paid the right price for it at half off. So I do think their price point is a bit high for what they're doing. Finally, let's talk about Oprah. So Oprah came out with a new eyeshadow palette. It is Baked shadows. It's called the Glitch eyeshadow palette. It is only $29, which, you know, I think Oprah is kind of being forced to lower their price point a little bit because people really only buy like their highlighters. I don't see a lot of other people buying things other than their highlighters or blushes. I think this eyeshadow palette is okay, but like baked eyeshadow was a choice. I don't know about baked eyeshadow. I remember when BH Cosmetics did a lot of baked shadows, and I had some of those palettes and like they were fine. Baked eyeshadows are kind of fun. They give kind of a different sort of frosted payoff look to them. But I wouldn't say that a baked shadow palette that is completely baked eyeshadows is completely on trend at the moment. I don't think frosty blue eyeshadow is necessarily making a comeback yet. Maybe soon, because we are, you know, cycling back into the 2000s now. So maybe soon we'll see more looks like this. But I do think all these kind of frosty shimmer shades, it just isn't something that appeals to me. And while I do think the shade, like, it's like, no, it's really not that good, honestly. Because this is basically their highlighter formula, I feel like, in eyeshadow pans. I don't know. I think the people at Oprah might need to step up the game just a little bit, because the eyeshadow palettes that they've been putting out, from what I've seen, I have friends who have them on PR and they got them and they were like, no, they're really not good. Like the formula is not great. Everything about them is not fantastic. Everything about the palettes don't really feel cohesive or well thought out or well put together. They just kind of feel like they're there. Like their eyeshadow palettes are a thing that do happen, but I don't feel like a lot of people are hyper interested in them. That's just kind of my thoughts. I'm not hyper interested in this. Baked? I don't know. Maybe I'm being petty, but I don't understand the baked thing. Like I feel like that had its moment and the moment's passed, and that's definitely not a trend that I would like to bring back. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me, guys. I hope you liked this video. Let me know what you are yassing or passing down below. Welcome back to consistent content. I hope. I have a dog now. He's been sleeping on my lap the entire video. I don't know if you can see him, but he just been chilling. I love you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I am wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right. You can click on that link, you can register to vote, and you can be part of your democracy. It's a beautiful thing to do. And if you're not from the United States and that link does not apply to you, please make sure you're staying informed on what's going on in your part of the world, in your country, in your town. Make sure you're using your voice in a positive way, because the world absolutely needs more of that. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!